When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ludlow, and enjoy today's episode. Hello, folks. This is Mark Ludlow with the Fearless Mindset Podcast, bringing to you Bob Burg, co-author of the Go Giver book. He is live with us, not live, but we're recording now. It'll be live to you when you guys see it. But Bob's very busy, as we all know, as the Go Giver series is a huge successful series, and they've sold over 1 million copies globally. That's a pretty good big feat to accomplish. Congratulations, Bob, on that. When you and John knocking that out of the ballpark.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And how many books total in the series now?
Well, there's 4 books total. 3 of them are parables. One of them is more of a guide, an application guide. The Go Giver itself has sold over 1 million in 30 languages, and then the other ones combined have probably done another couple of 100,000.
Wow, that's pretty powerful.
Thank you.
I know many of my business friends in different industries. Before I got into the podcast world and got heavily into the bodyguard world, executive protection as we call it, I was in a mentorship program, and one of the books was The Go Giver.
Oh, no kidding. They
use that as to teach the younger people coming in, new business owners, new franchisees, or whatever you call them, to read your guys' book that you put together to understand how to connect to people.
What a great compliment.
Yeah, and they basically told us we were to become the Joes, and our mentors were the Pandars. And our goal was to do the introduction, and Pandar would open the door to success in the journey. And I remember that. I'm like, they made us all read through it, so I read through it. And I hate reading. After I got out of college, I told myself I would never read another book. But I think my dad was right. Leaders are readers. I'm like, crap, Dad, you're right.
Funny how often dads get to be right as we get older.
Exactly. So, yeah, I really enjoyed it. It really made me wake up personally to understand what mentorship and coaching really, what it looks like. And you do so much more than mentorship. I mean, you are on world stages all around the world. And I have a list of places, people, organizations that you've spoken to. Examples, folks, he spoke to organizations of GE, New York Life, Aflac, Remax, UBS Bank, Linear Homes. I mean, folks, this guy is the real deal. He's on this world stage. He's an international accredited speaker, folks. So what Bob has to say, we need to listen to what he has to say because it could change your life.
That's a lot of pressure, Mark.
So now that you're Bob in Florida and you've done all this stuff, and you're a very well-known author, obviously, what is life like for you now?
I think it's like anything else. You do the best you can and try to live a good life, and one in which you can live according to your values, which I think is what happiness is all about. And you keep learning, you keep growing. And it was only when I realized that, at a fairly young age that I needed to, that I didn't know anywhere near what I thought I knew. And that was a key point. That's when I realized I had to really do some improving of myself, that I had to become a better person. I had to be one that was more open to learning and recognizing that I first was not the general manager of the universe. There was, I could control certain things such as my own actions and my own responses. What I couldn't control was pretty much everything else. And, once I knew that, then, things took off. Things got a lot different for me.
So you almost had to relax and get comfortable in what you're doing and just kind of chill out.
Yeah. I remember one of my mentors, Bill Gove, who was just such a great man. And he was one of the champion salespersons for NCR, National Cash Register, back in the day when National Cash Register actually sold cash registers. That's how long ago it was.
Wow.
And I remember he used to say to all his protege, he used to tell all of us, he'd say, you're responsible to people, not for people. So you're responsible to them to give them the opportunities. You're responsible to them to be prepared. You're responsible to them to be able to guide them in the process. You're responsible to them for all those things you can be responsible, right? But you're not responsible for other people's life's decisions. And wow. I think once I heard that from him, it kind of set my mind at ease. It said as long that, so that's not to be confused with, just don't worry about it. Let whatever happens. No, that's not it at all. There are certain things we can control, and those things we need to control. It's everything else. And which is very similar to the teachings of the Stoics, right? From, a few thousand years ago. Their whole thing is based on, their overriding philosophy is that when you can, be unattached to what you can't control, you're going to be a happier person. Right. And that's really, what it's all about.
Wow. So powerful. A lot of gold nuggets there, folks. So take notes, folks, if you're listening to the podcast right now. If you're driving, you may want to wait to get home.
Yeah. Don't take notes if you're driving. Do not take notes if you're driving.
Bad idea. Anyway, Bob, I'm going to do a little deep dive into the book a little bit. Cover some foundational things. Sure. Can you give our audience a quick reference of the 5 laws you and John put together in the book?
Sure. And they're based, these 5 laws are based upon an overriding premise, which is simply that shifting your focus, and this is really where it all begins, shifting your focus from getting to giving. Now, when we say giving in this context, we simply mean constantly and consistently providing immense value to others, understanding that doing so is not only a more fulfilling way of conducting business, it's the most financially profitable way as well. And, Mark, not for some woo-woo, way out there, magical, mystical type of reason. Not at all. It actually makes very rational, very logical sense. When you're that person who can take your focus off of yourself and place it on serving others, on discovering what they need, what they want, what they desire, when you're that person who can move the focus off yourself and onto helping others solve their challenges and their problems, when you can move off of yourself and focus on helping another person get closer to happiness, if you will, people feel good about you. People want to get to know you. They like you. They trust you. They want to be in relationship with you. They want to do business with you. They want to tell others about you, to be your personal walking ambassador. So from that, we have 5 laws, and those are the laws of value, compensation, influence, authenticity, and receptivity. Law number 1, the law of value, says your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. Now, this sounds kind of counterintuitive when you first hear it, right? Give more in value than I take in payment. It sounds like a recipe for bankruptcy, right? So we simply have to understand the difference between price and value. Price is a dollar figure. It's a dollar amount. It's finite. It is what it is. Value, on the other hand, is the relative worth or desirability of a thing, of something, to the end user or beholder. In other words, what is it about this thing, this product, service, concept, idea that brings so much worth or value to that other person that they will willingly, in this case, exchange their money for it and be glad they did? Now, let's say we're talking to a person who is a private security person, and I know your audience is bigger than just that, but I know you have a lot of people in that field. So somebody decides to, an executive decides to use your service. Well, they're paying you a certain fee. What's the value you're providing to them? Well, I'm going to assume it's peace of mind more than anything else. It's obviously it's security. It's a feeling of well-being. It's their understanding that they can focus on what they need to do, which is going to help them actually earn more and do what they have to do without having to work, right? So all these things, and I'm sure there's plenty more. But now for that, just intrinsically what you're doing for them, you're giving them much more in value than what they're paying, while you still make a very healthy profit. But the key is that this didn't happen because you were focused on your fee. You were focused on the immense value you were providing your client. The fee was the result. This is why John David Mann and I say that money is simply an echo of value. It's the thunder, if you will, to value's lightning, which means the value must be your focus. The value comes first. The money you receive is simply a natural result of the value you've provided. And that's really basically the first. Now, the neat thing about this is that in one of my old heroes, Harry Brown, used to say, in any free market-based economy, and when I say free market, I simply mean no one's forced to do business with anyone else. In any free market type of situation, there should always be two profits, the buyer profits and the seller profits, because each of them come away better off afterwards than they were beforehand. So that's really that's the law of value.
Bob, you got my head spinning now. I had a list of questions, and I think I'm going on a little rabbit trail here. A lot of military guys decide they're going to get out of the military, and they get a thing called the military or veteran disabled status, and they want to launch their own company. What is your advice to those veterans that want to start their own business? And let's say they want to look for mentorship, because I know in your questionnaire that I got from your assistant, it says if you're looking for a mentorship, there's things you do not do. Right. And so what is your advice to those veterans looking for a mentorship that they should not do in your experiences in mentorship and coaching?
Well, first, I want to thank each and every one of them for their service and for them to know how very, very appreciated they are. In terms of mentorship, having a mentor is a great thing, obviously, because you can cut your learning curve by years when you're receiving advice and counsel from someone who's been there and done that and so forth. I think one of the things that one of the ways people ask someone to mentor them is, it might be someone they don't know well or don't have a relationship with yet, and they simply say, "Hey, will you be my mentor?" Right? And by and large, that's probably not going to have the results you want, for a couple of reasons. One is, if you want this person to be your mentor, probably a whole bunch of other people do as well. And by just asking someone right out to be your mentor, it doesn't distinguish you in any way from anyone else. It also might come across to that person as, entitled. It's like saying, "Hey, will you share with me 30 years of your experience, even though you don't know me from a hole in the wall," right? and of course, that's not how any of us want to come across. So, but here's the neat thing. You can ask anyone, even if you don't have a already solid relationship with this person, you can still ask for advice, but you would do it in a way that I think is more inclined to have them respond positively. So you could say to this person, "I know you are very busy, so if this is something you either don't have the time to do or for whatever reason would rather not, I'll absolutely understand. I'm wondering if I might ask you one or two very specific questions." Now, when you ask that way, you've done a few different things. One is you've come across in a way that distinguishes you from others, right? You are communicating that this is a big ask. This is just not something you take for granted that you're entitled to. Okay. Two, you've given that person the out or back door. Very important when you say, if you just don't have time, or if it's just something you'd rather not do, I absolutely understand. This is so important because as human beings, we want to feel autonomous. We don't want to feel pressured. We don't want to feel as though we're obligated or whatever. We want to feel as though it's our choice. So when you give that person the out or the back door, they're much more likely to not need to take that out or back door. The third thing you did is this: rather than just saying, "Hey, can I pick your brain," or come across as very general, you are saying, "May I ask you one or two very specific questions?" This says to that potential mentor, "Hey, this person knows what they're looking for. They have an agenda. In this case, agenda is a positive, not they have an agenda. It's they have an agenda. They know what they're not going to take up a lot of my time, right? Now, you want to make sure to do your research and make sure that anything you ask this person is not something you could have found out by looking online, right? You want to make sure these are questions that are very now when you're and most people, by the way, when you ask that way, they will say, sure, go ahead. Not everybody, but not everybody has to, but most people will. And so now you're on the phone or you're on Zoom or you're in person having a cup of coffee or whatever it happens to be. And you're with that person. Well, you don't want to take up a whole lot of time. You want to get to the point. You want to ask these questions. And when they've answered, you want to let them know how grateful you are. And that if it's okay, I'll get back with you and let you know how things are going. They'll say, absolutely, please do. Right. I mean, you're the perfect protege, right? Or, you're not taking up their time. You're asking good questions. Now, once the conversation's over, I would do a couple of things. One, I would send a personalized handwritten note of thanks to that person, not an email, not a text, handwritten note of thanks, just a short one. Dear Mr. So-and-so or dear Ms. So-and-so or George or Madeline or however the relationship's been established. Thank you so much again for taking time out of your busy schedule. Your wisdom is priceless. I look forward to applying it right away. We'll circle back and let you know how things are progressing. Best regards. Boom. Put it in an envelope, hand stamp it, send it off. That again, it just distinguishes you. It helps them feel good about themselves. They know they're working with a real winner, right? What I would also do is find out what their favorite charity is or cause. Now, you don't ask them, but you can find this online somewhere about this person, or you ask their admin, whatever, and just make a small, doesn't have to be anything big, make a small donation to their favorite charity. Let's say this person is on the board of directors of the local animal shelter. Okay. So you make a small donation in their name. It'll get back to them. And you're not doing it to kiss up or anything, but again, just to show this person that your goal is to add value to them, that you're thinking of them. It's not just about taking, advice. It's about looking for ways to bring value to them in whatever way you can. So, now a few weeks later, you kind of circle back, let them know how things are going. Maybe you have another question. And if over time, Mark, a mentor protege relationship is supposed to develop, it will. Again, let's not be attached to the result. We do the best we can. And then it might be you have one or two conversations or just that one with that person. It might be somebody else you have a couple of conversations with or one. And there might be a few different people. And then finally, if it's supposed to happen, there'll be like one real mentor who, whatever, you never know. But when you do it this way, these are the actions you can control that create the environment for your success.
So when the person makes that donation, you make it into that mentor's name on their behalf.
Yeah. So yes. Okay. And so, and they don't even have to be on the board of directors. It could be anybody. You make a donation in the name of so-and-so, and they'll be notified through email or through a letter from the thing that so-and-so made a donation in your name. So they'll know that. Okay.
Yeah. Another question is, what do you recommend for that time? 30 minutes? Because everybody in corporate world's on like a 30-minute block to an hour block. And so do you recommend 30 minutes, 15 minutes on a session with the mentor?
I don't know.
How do you gauge that?
It's a good question, but I'm not even sure I would necessarily go there, because if you ask for 30 minutes, they may not have 30 minutes that they're willing to give you. It may be you just ask if you can ask a couple of quick, those very specific questions, and they're in their mind thinking 10 minutes or 12 minutes. And so maybe that's what you do. But if they're enjoying the conversation, they'll keep it going.
So let them take the lead on the time.
I would do that. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. I think if you say a couple of very quick, specific questions, I think that will be so non-threatening to them.
You're getting to know this person, they're getting to know you.
Yeah. And again, if they want to keep the conversation going, great. They might.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So you just basically, folks, what you're doing is you're looking at that mentor, you're looking for that chemistry, that connection, and to see if there's really value. That mentor sees in you for himself. Maybe he's looking for a mutual beneficial type of relationship.
A lot of people who are mentors, the only reason they're doing it is because they feel good about it. They want to be able to share some of their wisdom with others, and they want to be able to share it with someone who they know appreciates it, someone who's going to take action, someone who's going to respect the fact that they've done that.
Sure. Right. Makes sense. Another thing now we have going on right now is everybody's doing these master classes. So it's a global phenomenon. It really blew up before the pandemic hit us, and then it kind of, as we all know, died out. What is your thoughts on the explosion of the masterclass phenomenon? Do you think what do you think about all that?
I think it's like anything else, Mark. The ones that have great value to it and are marketed properly, they'll have plenty of people who will pay for that value. I think when, and I agree with what you're saying, it seems like everything's now a master class, but they're not, but there's master classes and master classes, right?
Right.
And so, so I think the marketplace will usually decide, in a way as far as what's worth it and what's going to stick and what won't.
Because I'm seeing, it seems like I'm hearing a lot of folks say that a lot of college kids don't see the value in going to get a 4-year university right now. They just don't see the value. And so a lot of them are jumping into the master club industry, I guess, to find people that have, fruit on their trees, some street credibility, versus going to a 4-year university to listen to a professor who may have done some things. Do you see that from your side of the world on what's happening in the masterclass phenomenon?
I can't say that that's anything that I would have knowledge about, but I don't doubt that that's true. It's just not something that's in my realm because I'm usually dealing more with a corporate environment in terms of teaching or entrepreneurs who are already out there in the marketplace. So it's not something I would necessarily see as much on the college level, but it certainly wouldn't surprise me. I think with college tuitions going up so much and people not wanting to come away from it, $100,000 or more in debt and maybe seeing that, that piece of paper doesn't necessarily have the same value that it did years ago. And I'm not making a judgment either way about anything. Right. I'm just saying as far as then it would make sense that a certain number of people would go that direction.
Yeah, I'm seeing a big shift too, because I'm seeing like social media just like blowing up. Like LinkedIn is like I don't know how many viewers and subscribers are on LinkedIn, but I see that being such a critical space. And my question is, how critical is social media and marketing, which you're an expert in creating your platform? And which social media platform do you see as being more critical than the other in the business world? Because I know there's, we have several.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think social media is important because what it does is it gives us the opportunity to meet and connect with people we probably would not have had the opportunity to without it. And you can create really great, deep, know, like, and trust relationships through social media. I think that the key is to understand that, and I often say, and we said it in the Go Giver, and I've been saying this for the 30 years or so I've been speaking, that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. What I don't say is they'll do business with and refer business to those computers they know, like, and trust. So what we need to understand, it's still the relationship. It's the person-to-person relationship. The media, the social media platform or the medium itself is simply it's simply a platform. It's a medium to help communicate. The key is to always ask ourselves before everything we tweet or pin or share or this or that or hit send on is what I'm about to do, but what I'm about to communicate, is it most likely going to add value or not?
There you go.
Right. So I think it's the same. It's just, so as far as which platform, I think it depends. Now, I think LinkedIn is a great platform for business to business and so forth. And it could be for business to consumer in certain ways as well. Again, it depends on your product or service. But I think that, for people in real estate, I think, Facebook and Instagram are probably, better for that. And for different, so I think what it really comes down to is where are your prospects? and those people who can introduce you to your prospects. So I think we need to take it we need to take it on an individual basis.
So where are the eyeballs and the ears that you're looking for? What space?
Sure.
Because I was wondering about that, because I know you're on LinkedIn and I wasn't sure what you saw in value, because you mainly, like you said, you work with corporate clients. That's a big market of what you work with. They invite you to talk to them and their leadership.
The corporate clients and then individual entrepreneurs. So both of those happen to be on LinkedIn. So that's a really good platform for me.
Now, how much are you getting back on the road now, Bob? Are you getting ready to go out there in the circuit again and do your coaching with the C-suite level executives out there in the corporate world? Is that kind of where you're heading after next year?
Yeah, not too much. I'm 63 now, and over the last 5 or 6 years, I'd been cutting down anyway on the number of engagements I was taking out of state. In other words, if I had to get on a plane. And so I'd been limiting it to between 15 and 20 over the past few years. Of course, last year with the pandemic just hitting, that went up. But, that wasn't an issue for me. And my heart breaks for everyone it was an issue for. Don't get me wrong. I'm not being lackadaisical about it. It's just, to me, it was fine because I really don't want to be traveling. I ended up doing a lot more in terms of, virtual keynotes, which I just love doing. But I was out in Denver and then, where was I? Columbus, Ohio this past month. And then that's it for the year for me. And then it starts again, but I'll only take maybe one out of state, let's say one on an airplane trip a month from this point on for the rest of my life, I'm hoping.
There you go.
I just don't like being on the road anymore. So.
It wears on the body.
Never really loved it, but I've loved. Hey, I felt very. It's been a privilege, an honor, and a pleasure to be in the business I've been in for the last 30 years. Okay, but I never liked necessarily the travel part. I liked everything. Sure. I loved everying else, just not the travel. But sometimes you got to do some things you don't like to do.
It can be grueling. It can be exhausting. But folks, this is Bob Burg. He is the author of The Go-Giver, co-author of The Go-Giver with John Mann. And he is a public speaker. And how can my audience find you, Bob, if they want to book you for anything? You have a website and all that they can find you?
Best place to go is Burg, B-U-R-G. I like to keep things simple. BURG.com, and everything is there.
Everything there, folks. So, yeah, he's done a lot of things in his life, folks. And he wanted to join us on the Fearless Mindset podcast to just share for all those bodyguards, military guys, law enforcement getting out of their industry and trying to cross over in the private sector, maybe security or start your own business. You're going to have mentorship and coaching. And I highly recommend reading The Go-Giver. I actually read it myself many years ago in a different business venture that I was involved in. And it really clicked in my head why we need mentorship and why we need people like mentors to open up opportunities for us. So I know Bob's got a very busy schedule, and I think we're probably going to wrap it up here in a couple of minutes. So anything else you'd like to add, Bob?
No, I just wish everybody the best of success. And again, we appreciate all of you who are doing your best to protect, to serve, to really put yourself out there for others. And I want to see each and every one of you do well by it as well. I want to see you profit. I want you to have a job, a career that you love, and that you also earn a lot of income from as well. And, again, money is an echo of value. So the more value you're placing out there with the more people whose lives you're touching, the more income you're going to receive.
Thanks for that, Bob. Thanks for that, sharing that with our audience, Bob. And folks, please tune in to the Fearless Mindset podcast. And Bob, you also have your own podcast, don't you?
Well, I did. I stopped doing it a little while ago, but we do have the archives up still. So there's, I don't know, a couple of hundred, whatever there are, 150, 200, whatever, that people can still go to. So when they go to Burg.com, when they scroll down, they'll see a thing for podcast. And you can, I know a lot of people binge watch them, or not binge watch them because they're audio, but binge listen to them. Right. So feel welcome to do that as well.
All right, folks, you heard that from Bob. So check out his podcast and check out Mark Ludlow. You can Google me, iHeartRadio. We're pretty much everywhere on Google in the podcast world. And thanks for tuning in, folks. Until next time, we'll see you with the next guest. And thanks for tuning in. This is Mark Ludlow. See you soon.